The meeting room buzzed with an unsettling energy as High Counselor Tice slammed his four-fingered hand against the crystalline table. The sound echoed through the chamber, and the holographic projections wavered as if in response. "I can't believe this," he muttered, his voice filled with disbelief. "We've already made the necessary modifications to the captured vessel, and yet you're telling us they're still fighting?" Admiral Riox V of the Galactic Confederation's 7th Fleet, stood stiffly before the High Council, my antenna drooping in what humans would later describe as embarrassment. "Esteemed counselors," I began, "I regret to inform you that, despite all of our standard pacification measures, the humans have not only survived but have begun mounting a formidable resistance." The normally composed council chamber erupted into chaos. The voices of representatives from 12 distinct species clashed with each other, their words ricocheting off the vaulted, violet-toned ceiling. In the midst of the pandemonium, Counselor Zara, her bioluminescent skin flashing with anxious patterns, tried to regain control of the room. "Quiet," commanded the Grand Arbiter, their voice cutting through the disarray like a precise beam of energy. "Admiral Vell, explain to us how a species that has not even fully explored their own solar system has managed to overcome our initial contact protocols." I activated my neural implant, projecting a visual of our first engagement with the humans. As per our usual protocol, we deployed our automated warning beacons at the outer edge of their system. The humans, either out of incredible courage or astonishing recklessness, attempted to communicate with them. When the beacons began the standard submission procedure, the projection displayed the footage of a human vessel approaching one of our warning beacons. As the beacon initiated its defense protocols, the human ship reacted by launching missiles loaded with radioactive material. 3 of our beacons were destroyed before we could comprehend what was happening. The next sequence is something I still struggle to process. I continued, my voice faltering. "The humans," I hesitated, unable to fully grasp the enormity of it myself. "They fired back. They actually retaliated with projectiles, crude missiles." Counselor Tice leaned forward, his scales shifting from a calm gold to a shade of deep concern. "But surely our defense systems, they failed," I interjected. "The humans employed a tactic called saturation fire. Rather than attempting to breach our shields with a single devastating weapon, they used an overwhelming barrage of smaller ones, disabling our defenses through sheer numbers." "Absurd," muttered Counselor Zara under her breath. "Their industrial output could not possibly." I knew I was stepping beyond the bounds of protocol, but the situation demanded it. "In mere days, they repurposed their entire entertainment industry into weapon production. Their so-called Hollywood, once a hub for what they called movies, is now manufacturing guidance systems for missiles." The Grand Arbiter's crystalline form shimmered with evident concern. "And what of the pacification fleet?" "Destroyed, Your Excellency," I said solemnly. "Though the humans suffered severe losses, they rammed their damaged ships into ours deliberately. Their crews remained on board, broadcasting a strange audio signal across all frequencies. It was a song they called Ride of the Valkyries." The council chamber fell into stunned silence. In countless millennia of expansion, no species had ever reacted to first contact with such unwavering resistance. We had encountered hostile civilizations before, but they all capitulated once they recognized our technological supremacy. "Surely, they must comprehend the futility of opposing us," the Grand Arbiter remarked, his voice tinged with genuine bewilderment. "We have subdued entire galaxies. Our technology is eons ahead of theirs." I believe the issue is more complex," I said hesitantly, feeling uneasy. "Your Excellency, we intercepted their internal communications. When their leaders informed their population of the threat they faced, an advanced alien species capable of annihilating their planet, the most common reaction was something they called a meme. It depicted one of their entertainment characters stating, 'So you have chosen death. They found our threat amusing.'" The council chamber exploded into chaotic chatter, while I stood frozen, contemplating whether we had gravely underestimated this primitive yet astonishingly defiant species known as humans. Our extinction strike should have ended it all. Our quantum cascade bombs were engineered to distort the very fabric of space-time, disassembling matter itself. We had deployed them 17 times before, obliterating 17 different civilizations. None had survived. Yet humans, as I was about to discover countless times, refused to obey the laws of nature. "Admiral Vell," came the voice of my second-in-command, Lieutenant Nexar. "You need to see this." Nexar's once glowing skin had turned an ashen gray, his fear palpable. The holographic display flickered, showing Earth, not disintegrating as we had anticipated, but standing resolute. Even more troubling, hundreds of small ships were emerging from the planet's atmosphere. How is this possible? I murmured. The quantum cascade should have. They reversed it, Nexar replied, his voice faltering. Somehow, they reversed the cascade. Early analysis suggests they used something called particle accelerators to create a containment field. They had thousands of them buried underground, waiting. Before we could process this, a transmission cut through our confusion. The hologram shifted, revealing a human female. Her dark skin contrasted with the crisp white uniform she wore, and her expression held a cocky smirk. "This is Commander Alexandra Blackwood of the United Earth Defense Force," she said, unapologetically skipping any diplomatic formalities. "Thanks for the light show. It was quite the spectacle. Now, let me show you how humanity responds." The transmission ended abruptly. Moments later, alarms blared as our sensors detected movement. The human ships, rudimentary as they appeared, were deploying battle tactics that shattered every known military doctrine. "They're using their own ships as projectiles," Nexar reported, his composure slipping. "Each vessel is ejecting its reactor core, utilizing the explosion to launch hundreds of smaller craft directly through our shield frequencies." I watched in horror as the first wave of human ships collided with our fleet. Our shields, designed to block energy weapons and conventional projectiles, were ill-prepared for the erratic and unpredictable debris field. Every time we destroyed one of their ships, it fragmented into multiple smaller threats, overwhelming our defenses. "Commander Blackwood is trying to contact us again," Nexar reported. This time, the human appeared holding what they called a coffee cup, a bemused expression on her face. "Having trouble with our so-called primitive technology, Admiral? You know, while you were busy developing fancy energy weapons, we spent our time mastering the art of throwing rocks. Really fast." "Rocks," I stammered as our flagship shook violently from yet another wave of human attacks. Their tactic was disarmingly simple yet completely impossible to thwart. They had turned our own advanced shielding technology against us. Every time we recalibrated our frequencies, they sacrificed even more ships, using the resulting explosions to conceal the approach of their real weapons. "Lieutenant," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady, "display their fleet formation." The tactical screen revealed a pattern that sent a chill down my spine. The humans weren't following any recognizable military formation. Their ships moved erratically, like a swarm of insects, chaotic yet somehow synchronized. Zara spoke quietly, her voice tinged with disbelief. "They're using something called swarm intelligence. Each ship operates autonomously but in perfect harmony with the others. Our tactical systems can't predict their movements because there's no central command to analyze." Once again, Commander Blackwood's face appeared on our screens, this time with multiple Earth military command displays behind her. "You know what your biggest mistake was, Admiral?" she said, her tone mocking. "You assumed that just because we hadn't ventured beyond our solar system, we weren't ready for a fight. The truth is, we've been fighting ourselves for centuries. We got really good at it. Now we finally have someone else to test our theories on." The battle raged on for what seemed like an eternity, though it was only hours. Our fleet, equipped with the most sophisticated weaponry in the known universe, was being methodically dismantled by a species that still relied primarily on combustion engines. I turned to my officers, trying to stay calm. "He's done the impossible. He's integrated their rudimentary neural networks with our quantum computing infrastructure. The result is remarkable, isn't it?" The room fell deathly silent as Dr. Rivera's face filled the screen. He hadn't just infiltrated our communication systems. He had bypassed our most secure encryption protocols as if they were child's play. "I must thank you all," Rivera said, adjusting what humans call glasses. "Your technological archives have been incredibly informative. Did you know that your quantum processors actually function more efficiently when a small amount of chaos is introduced? We discovered that quite by accident, after spilling coffee on one." Warren Cryan bellowed, "How dare you infiltrate this hallowed chamber?" "Hallowed chamber?" Rivera laughed. "Please, your security is based on predictable quantum patterns. We humans learned long ago that the best security comes from embracing randomness. Speaking of which, suddenly, the chamber's defensive systems activated, surrounding every representative with a containment field. But these were not our standard containment fields. These were something entirely new." "Don't worry," Rivera said with a casual wave. "These fields are temporary. I just wanted to demonstrate our latest breakthrough. We've combined your zero-point energy technology with our understanding of particle physics. The result is quite elegant," Rivera continued, his tone casual, "though our engineers insist insist on calling it the space jail generator, I watched in disbelief as Rivera pulled up detailed blueprints of technologies that had taken our civilization centuries to perfect. On his screens, I saw human scientists effortlessly modifying, improving, and even completely rethinking fundamental principles we had long believed to be unchangeable. You see, Rivera said, speaking as if explaining to a particularly slow learner, your problem is that you think in straight lines. You develop your technology logically, step by step. But humans? We throw things at the wall and see what sticks, sometimes quite literally. One of our greatest breakthroughs came when an intern accidentally dropped a quantum core into a vat of liquid nitrogen while eating a hamburger. The containment fields deactivated, and the chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives began shouting for immediate action. Full-scale war, anything to stop the humans before they gain too much power. Oh, and about that combined fleet you're planning to send, Rivera added, almost conversationally, from our first encounter, fascinating flaws in your propulsion systems, by the way. Did none of you ever consider reversing the polarity of the neutron flow? Opens up some rather interesting possibilities. I stepped forward, my control finally slipping. How? How can you advance so quickly? Our civilizations took generations to achieve these technologies. Rivera's expression softened just a touch, a hint of understanding in his eyes. Because we don't know what's impossible. Every one of your species advanced by following the same basic principles, building upon what came before. But humans? We try the stupid ideas, the impossible ones. We succeed because no one ever told us we couldn't. And if they did, we didn't listen. On the screens, human shipyards were displayed, where vessels were being built in combinations of technology that, under normal circumstances, should have unraveled the very fabric of reality. Yet, somehow, through what Rivera called aggressive trial and error, they had made it work. Here's the deal. Rivera's voice grew more serious. We don't want war. We never did. You attacked us, yes, but we're willing to move past that. What we're offering is a partnership, not surrender, not yours or ours. Think it over. While you're thinking, though, we'll keep playing with all these delightful toys you've kindly given us. The transmission ended, and the chamber fell into stunned silence. The most powerful civilizations in known space had just been lectured like children by a species we had once dismissed as primitive. We should have known, I muttered, my voice barely a whisper, but Warren Cryan was close enough to hear. Any species reckless enough to split the atom just to see what happens. We never stood a chance. The humans didn't grasp the concept of impossible, and that made them far more dangerous than any advanced technology. The reality splitter was our last resort, a weapon so dreadful that its mere existence violated 17 different universal peace accords. As I watched its dark energy core begin to power up, its pulse strong enough to tear apart the very fabric of space-time, I wondered, perhaps for the first time, if we had truly gone too far. Senexa, a voice interrupted my thoughts. The human fleet approaches. They're broadcasting music again. Through the command deck speakers came the deafening beats of what humans called rock music, a song about a champion who stood defiant until the very end. How fitting. Connected to human tactical command, our communications officer reported. Their strategist wishes to speak with you. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a human male, not in military uniform, but dressed casually, with a steaming cup of what they called chai in his hand. Admiral V, he said in an easy tone, I'm Raj Patel, Earth Defense Strategic Command. Mind explaining what that big, ominous thing you're charging up is supposed to do? I straightened, my voice firm. This is the reality splitter, human. It will unravel the very fabric of space-time around your fleet. There will be no escape, no defense, no trick you can use. Surrender now, and we will spare Earth itself. Patel took a sip of his chai, looking utterly unconcerned. Reality splitter, huh? Sounds impressive. Quick question though. Did your scientists account for quantum tunneling effects when they designed the containment field? My antenna twitched involuntarily. Of course what are you doing? I was cut off by the sight on the tactical display. The human fleet was shifting into a formation I had never encountered before. Their ships arranged themselves into an intricate three-dimensional pattern, entirely defying conventional tactics. See, we took a look at the physics behind your big gun, Patel continued casually. Fascinating stuff, but you made the same mistake everyone does when dealing with quantum mechanics. You assumed causality has to flow in one direction. The energy readings from the reality splitter were climbing rapidly. In mere moments, its destructive power would be unleashed. Now, Admiral, Patel said, setting down his cup with deliberate calm, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Humans have something we call street smarts. Sometimes the smartest solution isn't the most sophisticated one. Suddenly, the human fleet surged forward, moving in perfect synchrony. But instead of attacking, they began to spin, rapidly creating a colossal vortex in space. space. What you're seeing, Patel explained, his voice smooth, is what we call the cosmic drain. Simple, really. You want to tear apart reality? Fine, we'll give it somewhere to go. The reality splitter fired, a beam of pure chaotic energy, racing toward the human fleet. But instead of ripping through them, the energy was drawn into the vortex they had created, following an artificial gravitational path that had somehow been engineered, a drain. You're turning space itself into a drain? I asked, disbelief creeping into my voice. More of a redirect, really, Patel shrugged. See, we figured if you're gonna tear apart reality, those tears have to go somewhere. So we made a path of least resistance. Basic plumbing, just on a cosmic scale. Our sensors shrieked in alarm as the energy from the reality splitter began to flow back toward our fleet, following the curve of space that the humans had created. That's the thing about reality, Patel said, now grinning. It's a lot like water. It follows the path you give it. Right now, that path leads right back to you. All ships, emergency retreat. I barked, my heart pounding, but it was too late. The energy from the reality splitter, now redirected by the human fleet's impossible maneuver, crashed back into our lines. The battle that ensued was unlike anything in our recorded history. Human ships moved through the chaos with impossible agility, twisting and turning through the distortions in reality, somehow using the warping of space-time to their advantage. They had taken our ultimate weapon and twisted it into something entirely unexpected, navigating the ripples of distorted physics as though it were a game. Quite the clever tactic, wouldn't you say? Patel remarked, his tone detached as our fleet disintegrated before my eyes. We modeled it on how water spirals down a drain. The math follows the same principles once you introduce a few extra dimensions. Believe it or not, we first tested it in a swimming pool. My gaze locked on the chaos unfolding, reality itself warping around the human vessels. Their formation morphed into a massive whirlpool, not just defeating us, they were rewriting the very rules of space warfare. You know what your mistake is, Admiral? Patel asked, his voice laced with mock sympathy. You view the universe as a fixed entity governed by unyielding laws. We, on the other hand, see it as something malleable, something we can stretch, distort, and reshape until it aligns with our desires. Our reality splitter, the culmination of millennia of development, had been reduced to a mere power source for their impossible strategies. Nexa, I reported, my voice faltering. They've tapped into our weapons energy to fuel their ships. They've somehow integrated it into their technology. Patel smirked. Waste not, want not. We've become rather resourceful lately. Now, about those surrender terms you mentioned. With a heavy heart, I ordered our forces to stand down, finally grasping why the humans had survived our initial assault. They didn't just think outside the box, they didn't believe in the box's existence at all. And that made them more dangerous than any weapon we could ever craft. Standing before the Grand Council, likely for the last time, my mind drifted to the countless species we had encountered before humanity. The Zenari, who surrendered at the sight of our superior technology. The Prune, who fought valiantly, though predictably. The Vexans, who exhausted their attempts at negotiation until the bitter end. We must amend the records, the Grand Arbiter declared. It's imperative we understand what sets humans apart. Admiral Vell, your insights, please. The Council Chamber's holographic system sprang to life, displaying past encounters with humanity. I exhaled deeply, unsure of how to put the incomprehensible into words. Take the Marxian defense, for example, I began. When we deployed our solar disruption field, they attempted to counter it using their most advanced technology, but failed. When we turned the same weapon on Earth, the humans responded by launching billions of small mirrors into orbit, creating what they called a cosmic disco ball. This scattered our energy weapon, turning it, as they put it, into an impressive light display. The council members exchanged uneasy glances as I pressed on. And then there was the cyan response. Faced with our quantum tunneling torpedoes, they tried to develop countermeasures based on similar principles. They spent years studying quantum mechanics, while the humans... I paused, considering the absurdity. The humans filled space with what they referred to as space bubble wrap, tiny containers of pressurized gas that would burst when our torpedoes passed through, disrupting the quantum field with random bursts of kinetic energy. But surely their primitive methods must have limitations. Counselor Tice interrupted. I couldn't help but laugh, a reflex I had acquired from the humans. Primitive? Let me show you something. The holographic display shifted to show a human research facility. This is what they did with the remains of one of our destroyed ships. Instead of trying to replicate the advanced alloys, they turned them into a growth medium for something they call space barnacles, genetically engineered organisms that consume our materials and excrete them in a stronger form. That's impossible, Counselor Zara protested. Biological organisms cannot surpass our metallurgy. Humans have a saying, hold my beer. I paused paused, realizing I would have to explain that phrase later. Their approach isn't like ours. When we encounter a challenge, we analyze it, study it, and develop a calculated solution. The humans, they throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Then they throw more things. Then they throw the wall itself. The display shifted to show a series of bizarre human innovations, each more bewildering than the last. A teenager's science project that accidentally produced a more efficient version of our quantum communications. A cooking mishap that led to a breakthrough in shield harmonics. A cat walking across a keyboard that somehow optimized our entire targeting system. Look at their history, I continued. When they couldn't fly, they built machines heavier than air and threw them off cliffs until one stayed in the sky. When they wanted to reach space, they strapped themselves to controlled explosions. When they needed computing power, they trapped lightning in rocks and taught it to think. The council sat in silence, absorbing the weight of what I had said. But what's most terrifying, I whispered, isn't just the solutions they find, it's their process. Every failure teaches them something new. Every defeat adds to their data. They don't just learn from their mistakes, they celebrate them. They live by a mantra, fail fast, fail forward. They throw themselves at the most impossible challenges, without any regard for their own limitations. The holographic display now showed a montage of human attempts to reverse engineer our technology. Most failed in spectacular fashion, some defied the laws of physics, and a few improved on our original designs. We had believed that their lack of interstellar travel meant they weren't ready for advanced technology. We were wrong. Their inability to spread beyond their solar system wasn't due to incapacity. It was because they were too busy trying every possible method to get there. While we perfected a single technology, they experimented with thousands. And now, the Grand Arbiter asked, now that they have access to our technology, our methods, our knowledge, they aren't using it in the way we do. They are breaking it apart, fusing it with their crude solutions, creating hybrid technologies that should never work, but somehow do. They're not copying us. They're using our tech as raw material for their endless experiments. The final hologram displayed Earth's defense preparations, enormous structures blending advanced technology with simple mechanical designs. Ships that looked as though they had been created by tossing darts at an engineering manual. The weapons they wielded were based on principles that left our scientists in despair. We strike with well-thought-out strategies, I concluded. They react with solutions so absurd, we can't defend against them because we never imagined anyone would be audacious enough to try them. We adhere to the laws of physics. They treat those laws as mere guidelines. Then what chance do we have? Counselor Tice asked, his voice filled with disbelief. I turned my gaze to the latest intelligence reports, which detailed human preparations for what they believed would be our final assault. They were braced for us to attack with sophisticated weapons, and in response, they had developed defenses ranging from quantum field disruptors to something they called space catapults. I said quietly, we should hope that they continue to see us as worthy adversaries, rather than threats to be eliminated. Because if there's one thing I've learned about humans, it's that they thrive on a challenge. But if we ever truly endanger them, if we push them beyond the point of seeing this as a fun puzzle to solve, they might stop experimenting and begin fighting in earnest. A heavy silence fell over the council as my words took root. We had spent millennia perfecting our technology, refining our methods, progressing logically through the ranks of innovation. Humans, on the other hand, tried everything at once and, through sheer persistence and wild creativity, somehow made the impossible work. And now, they had our technology to explore. Should we surrender? Someone asked, their voice barely a whisper. No, I replied, my voice firm. We should do something far more difficult. We should offer to cooperate, because the only thing more terrifying than humans as enemies is the thought of what they could achieve as allies. The peace conference was being held on Earth in a place called Las Vegas. The humans claimed it was their most diplomatic city, but as I gazed at the towering buildings shaped like monuments from their world and watched the artificial volcano erupt on the hour, I couldn't help but wonder. So, Commander Blackwood, said a human, leaning back in her chair at the negotiating table, just to clarify, you want to form an alliance now after trying to conquer us? Dr. Rivera sat next to her, still tinkering with a captured quantum core, while Raj Patel shuffled what he called playing cards, occasionally making them vanish in ways that left our sensors scrambling. We believe, I began carefully, that our civilizations could gain far more from cooperation than from conflict. You mean you've realized we're going to keep tearing apart physics until we figure out how to tap dance on your front lawn, so you might as well join in? Patel grinned. The first week of negotiations was enlightening. We discovered that humans had something they called poker faces when they wanted to hide their intentions. What we hadn't anticipated was that they were terrible at using them consistently. They could keep a perfectly straight face while discussing high-stakes military treaties, but the moment someone let out a sound they called a snort, they would dissolve into laughter. Cultural integration proved to be an even bigger challenge. The first time we saw humans celebrate their weekends, several of our anthropologists had to be sedated. The idea of halting productive work for random recreational activities was completely foreign to us. The humans, however, insisted that it made them more efficient. Somehow they were right. Your species approaches relaxation with the same intensity as combat, I remarked to Commander Blackwood during one of our sessions. You should see us plan a birthday party, she responded with a wink. The technology exchange programs were a mixture of awe and dread. Our scientists would spend years refining a theoretical model, only for the humans to stroll in, completely disregard the model, and fix the problem with duct tape and something they referred to as good tries. When we introduced them to our most advanced AI systems, they immediately taught the AIs to play something called rock, paper, scissors and set up an interstellar tournament. The first joint military exercise was unforgettable. Our fleet executed flawless, precise maneuvers that had been honed over centuries. The humans arrived in ships painted with racing stripes and flame decals, insisting that it made them go faster. The disturbing part? Their ships actually were faster. You know what your mistake was? Patel said to me over a game of poker, which I'm sure he was cheating at, though our sensors couldn't figure out how. You thought conquering Earth would be the end of something. For humans, everything is always the beginning of something else. He was right. Within months of the peace treaty, humans had spread throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as what they called chaos consultants. Got a problem no one can solve? Call a human. They'll either fix it or break it so dramatically that the original issue seems trivial by comparison. Now, as I prepare to retire from my position as liaison to Earth, I finally grasp what makes humans truly extraordinary. It's not their technology, their strategies, or even their inexplicable tolerance for adding caps to food for entertainment. It's their perspective. Where we see boundaries, they see suggestions. Where we see failure, they see data. Where we see the impossible, they see something they just haven't figured out how to do yet. Humans have a saying, the journey is more important than the destination. At first, I thought it was just another of their confusing proverbs. Now I understand. They don't fight because they want to win. They fight because they want to see what happens next. As I write this final report, Earth has just announced they've figured out how to make faster-than-light travel go turbo. Their words, not mine. They didn't bother explaining the science. When asked how it works, their lead researcher just said, we painted racing stripes on the quantum foam. The terrifying part? It actually worked. And that, perhaps, is humanity's greatest strength. They don't understand the concept of defeat because they don't believe in endings. Everything, success or failure, is just another step in what they call the great adventure. May whatever gods exist help anyone who tries to stop them from enjoying the ride. End report. Admiral Riox Vel, Human Relations Division PS. They also introduced me to something called pizza. I now fully understand why they fight so fiercely to protect their world.